The call that shocked the boardroom. Chapter 1. The man they laughed at. The boardroom of Kingsley Holdings was silent except for the sound of expensive leather chairs shifting and the faint hum of the city far below the glass walls. At the head of the table sat Richard Kingsley, the powerful CEO. His blue suit was perfectly tailored, his smile sharp and confident. Around him sat senior executives, men and women who controlled millions of dollars in investments. The meeting had been going smoothly until the door suddenly opened. A security guard stepped in, looking uncomfortable. "Sir, there's an old man here insisting he needs to see you." Richard frowned. "Does he have an appointment?" "No, sir, but he says the meeting concerns the future of this company." The executives exchanged amused glances. Richard sighed. "Fine. Let him in. I could use some entertainment." Moments later, the old man walked into the room. His clothes were worn and dusty. His grey beard was untrimmed. A faded coat hung loosely from his thin shoulders, and a large travel bag rested against his side. The room fell silent. Then someone chuckled. One of the executives leaned toward another and whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Did he get lost on the way to the shelter?" Laughter spread around the table. The old man said nothing. He simply stood quietly, observing everyone with calm eyes. Richard leaned back in his chair, smiling arrogantly. "Well," he said, "you've interrupted a very important meeting. What exactly do you want?" The old man slowly took out a phone from his pocket. "I need to make a call." More laughter. "You came to our boardroom to make a phone call?" One woman mocked. The old man nodded. "Yes." Richard waved his hand dismissively. "Go ahead. Make your call. Let's hear this." The old man dialed a number. The entire room watched him like he was a joke. But the moment he spoke into the phone, everything began to change. Chapter 2. The strange phone call. The old man lifted the phone to his ear and spoke calmly. "Yes, it's me." The executives rolled their eyes. Richard leaned back, whispering to a colleague, "This is ridiculous." But the old man continued speaking. "I'm currently inside the Kingsley Holdings boardroom." Suddenly, Richard's smile faded slightly. The old man paused, listening. Then he nodded. "Yes, I see." He looked directly at Richard. "I believe you should check the news." One of the executives scoffed. "What nonsense." But at that exact moment, a notification buzzed on several phones. The executives began pulling out their devices. A headline flashed across the screen. "Breaking news. Global investment giant acquires majority shares of Kingsley Holdings." Richard's smile vanished. "That's impossible," he muttered. He grabbed his phone and read the article. The color drained from his face. Someone had secretly purchased 51% of the company overnight. Which meant one thing. Kingsley Holdings had a new owner. The room exploded into confused whispers. Who bought the shares? How did this happen? Richard slammed his hand on the table. "Find out who did this." The old man calmly ended his call. Then he slowly walked toward the head of the table. Everyone watched him in silence. Richard stood up angrily. "You. This is a private meeting. Leave immediately." The old man smiled faintly. "I'm afraid I can't do that." "Why not?" The old man placed a document on the table. The executives leaned forward to read it. And then the room froze. The paper clearly stated, "Majority Ownership Certificate, Kingsley Holdings. Owner, Samuel Whitaker." The old man raised his head. "My name," he said calmly, "is Samuel Whitaker. I believe this seat now belongs to me." Chapter 3. The Truth About Samuel Whitaker. The room was completely silent. Richard stared at the old man in disbelief. "That's impossible," he said. Samuel Whitaker gently placed his worn bag on the table. "It only seems impossible because you judged me before asking who I was." One executive quickly searched the name on his phone. His eyes widened. "Oh my God." Everyone turned toward him. "What?" Richard demanded. The executive swallowed. Samuel Whitaker, founder of Whitaker Global Infrastructure. The room erupted. Whitaker Global was a multi-billion-dollar international empire. Railways, energy, technology. Their projects spanned across continents. Richard looked back at the old man. You're telling me you're that Samuel Whitaker? The old man nodded. Yes. But you're supposed to be dead. Samuel finished calmly. Richard didn't answer. For years, rumors had circulated that Whitaker had disappeared after stepping down from his empire. No one had seen him in public. Many believed he had died. Samuel slowly walked around the boardroom, studying the executives. 25 years ago, he said, I helped build this company. Everyone stared at him. You, what? Samuel nodded. I invested in Kingsley Holdings when it was nothing more than a struggling startup. Richard's face tightened. That was decades ago. You sold those shares. Samuel smiled slightly. No, I didn't. The room went silent again. I simply waited. Chapter 4, The Lesson. Samuel sat in Richard's chair, the same chair Richard had proudly occupied minutes earlier. Now Richard stood across the table like a nervous employee. Samuel folded his hands calmly. Before I say anything about the future of this company, he said, I want to ask a question. No one spoke. Samuel looked around the room. When I walked in here, what did you see? An executive spoke quietly. A poor man. Samuel nodded. Exactly. He leaned forward slightly. You saw old clothes. You saw a bag. You saw someone beneath you. Richard looked down. Samuel continued. And because of that, you laughed. No one dared speak. Samuel stood up. Let me tell you something about success. He walked slowly across the boardroom. The most dangerous weakness a leader can have is arrogance. His voice remained calm. But arrogance is easy when money and power make you forget where you came from. He turned toward Richard. You forgot. Richard swallowed. Samuel picked up the ownership document. And now, the company belongs to someone you laughed at. Chapter 5. The Decision. The tension in the boardroom was unbearable. Everyone waited for Samuel Whitaker's decision. Samuel looked at the executives carefully. I could fire all of you right now. No one argued. I could dismantle this entire leadership team. Richard clenched his fists. But that's not what I'm going to do. The room looked up in surprise. Samuel continued. I'm giving you all one chance. He placed the document back on the table. You will rebuild this company with humility. He looked directly at Richard. And you will remember that respect costs nothing. Richard slowly nodded. Yes, sir. Samuel picked up his bag. Then he paused near the door. One more thing. The room froze. Samuel smiled slightly. The security guard outside treated me with more kindness than anyone in this room. He looked at Richard. Promote him. Then he walked out of the boardroom. And for the first time in their powerful careers, the executives of Kingsley Holdings sat in complete silence, realizing the poorest-looking man in the room had been the most powerful all along.